Greetings friends and welcome to another Tempo Storm Battlegrounds video. Today we'll be covering patch 16.2 that was pushed on January 21st, as well as the ramifications that this patch had on the Battlegrounds meta. With the introduction of 2 new heroes, 2 new cards, and a host of additional changes including some user interface overhauls, this patch is full of treats for Battlegrounds enthusiasts. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Hearthstone-related content. Now let's start by reviewing what's changed. This patch came with 2 new heroes, Tyrion Fordring and Millhouse Mana Storm. The gameplay of these 2 heroes are pretty different in comparison to the heroes we've seen so far. Tyrion's hero power buffs tribeless minions like Zap Slywick, Bolvar, Baron Rivendare, Khadgar, and the Boogie Monster. The ability to buff these neutral minions allows for this hero to shine in the mid-game, as this is where you typically have a combination of neutral and tribal minions, while you attempt to transition into a finalized build and composition for the late game. Tyrion's hero power makes this transition pretty smooth by allowing you to buff up your neutral units every turn for only 1 gold, allowing you to keep up with the rest of the field by having a lot of stats in play, while you are re-rolling and looking to piece together a more permanent strategy for later. This hero's playstyle also supports compositions that thrive when combining the synergistic effects of certain neutral and tribal minions. Demons are a good example of this, as Tyrion's hero power will buff tribal support cards like Soul Juggler and Wrath Weaver. If you're willing to put your faith in the light, Tyrion is definitely a hero capable of taking you to a top 4 finish consistently. Millhouse Mana Storm's gameplay is quite unique to say the least. This hero's early game is pretty awkward at times. Minion and tavern development in the first couple rounds will be tricky to navigate unless you are offered a token generator on turn 1. You will start the game with only 2 gold, allowing you to purchase 1 minion. On turn 2, you will have 3 gold to spend, but in order to upgrade to Tavern Tier 2, you need 4 gold, and in order to buy 2 minions, you also need 4 gold. So unless you are offered a Murloc Tidehunter or Alley Cat, you will be forced to float 1 gold. You could also opt to sell the minion you purchased on turn 1 and buy 2 new minions on turn 2. Despite Millhouse's very weak early game, where he really shines is the late game, where he has a nice edge over some of the other traditional heroes. Since every minion costs 2, you will be able to purchase more minions per turn in the late game, which makes Millhouse one of the most flexible heroes in the game for transitioning between compositions on a whim. The ability to purchase so many minions in the late game also means a greater chance to obtain triples. Use this flexibility to your advantage when you're looking to upgrade your composition to something more powerful. The new patch also introduced new cards and card changes, which have definitely bolstered some compositions' power levels at varying states of the game. Let's start with demons. Demons have gotten quite a few buffs these last few patches. Last patch, Golden Soul Juggler was buffed to deal 2 pings for 3 instead of 1 ping for 6. This patch, demons saw the removal of Voidwalker from the card pool, but in exchange they gained Imprisoner and Fiendish Servant. Imprisoner is a very strong 2-star unit for demons, as it not only has a very aggressive stat line for the tier it's in, but it also comes with taunt and a death rattle mechanic that can be abused by Soul Juggler. Fiendish Servant is a deceptively strong demon. It scales very well with attack buffs and is a great way to make your demon tokens relevant by having the chance to buff up their attack to whatever the servant's attack was when it died. With the crazy scaling of Wrathweaver and Floating Watcher, as well as the buff to Golden Soul Juggler, and now an additional decently scaling demon in the form of Fiendish Servant, demons are definitely one of the best compositions in today's meta, comfortably sitting in high A tier. The constant nerfs to Murlocs from the previous patches has definitely hurt the consistency of this composition. When you pull it off, Murlocs still have one of the highest ceilings for power in a single composition, with the ability to have Divine Shielded Poisonous Amphibian striking down even the strongest of minions. But the issue is that getting to this point is very difficult to do on a consistent enough basis to always guarantee success with the build. Murlocs remain middle of the pack this patch, mostly due to the variance that this build brings. This composition is B tier, potentially A tier when you are able to high roll with it. There are 2 camps of beasts. The first camp is the build that prioritizes Mama Bear, Scavenging Hyena, and Rat Packs. This is more of a token build, where the goal is to make medium-sized threats with your tokens thanks to Mama Bear's buffs, and after these tokens are taken out, you have a huge hyena which takes out the remainder of the enemy's minions. This build is pretty easy to put together because a lot of its components are picked up in the early game. The main issue with this build is that it scales pretty poorly and has a really hard time against comps with really big minions or divine shields. The second camp of beasts involves death rattle abuse, prioritizing Goldran, the Great Wolf, Cave Hydras, and Baron Rivendare. This is the strongest beast comp to run, although it is a bit harder to put together relative to the prior build. The strength in this comp is the ability to massively buff multiple Cave Hydras and then cleave down the entire enemy board in a very efficient manner. The Death Rattle Beast composition is definitely an S tier composition. Mechs come in a couple different flavors, those being Death Rattle mechs and Token mechs. Token builds remain strong, building off the back of Cobalt Guardian and looking to abuse its constant Divine Shield refreshes. Token mechs require an A tier composition. It's very consistent in what it does and is relatively easy to put together. Death Rattle mechs utilize cards like Kaboom Bot, Meccano Egg, Kangar's Apprentice, and Baron Rivendare. This strategy is definitely fun, but not as consistent to pull off as the previous token build, which leads this composition to fall into B tier. Menagerie builds focus on buffing up a mix of tribes using Lightfang Enforcer and battle cries like Menagerie Magician, Zubat, and Brand Bronzebeard. There are quite a few ways to put together a Menagerie build, but the most successful ones utilize Cave Hydra, Faux Reaper, and at least a Poisonous Murloc. The fact that other comps have been buffed over the last few patches and the lack of overall support for Menagerie builds means that this composition finds itself in the middle, residing comfortably in low B tier, potentially even C tier if you aren't able to find enough powerful minions in each respective tribe. And that concludes our meta report for Battlegrounds compositions in the most recent patch. Let us know in the comments what composition you like most. If you enjoyed this video, drop it a like, and make sure that you subscribe to the Tempo Storm Hearthstone YouTube channel to keep up to date with all of our Hearthstone content. Until next time.